before we start, or as we start, as we always do, Outdoors Queensland would respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners of the various lands where we gather, and pay respect to elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge the important roles that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples play on the lands, skies and waterways used for outdoor activities. I'm in Brisbane, but also known as Meanjin on Yuggera country. And if you'd like to, you can pop in the chat the place and the country that you're joining us from today. Outdoors Queensland also acknowledges the funding that's provided by the Queensland Government to support outdoor activities across Queensland, and acknowledges the work that various government departments and ministers do in relation to outdoor activities, including the staff at Sport and Recreation within the Department of Tourism, Innovation and Sport. So welcome to today's session of Coffee and Conversation. I'm Dom Courtney, Executive Officer of Outdoors Queensland. Our Operations Manager, Mark Squires, is a co-host for today's session.
Good morning.
Hey, Mark. And we also have Brendan Munge as a special co-host of today's session. Brendan was elected President of the Outdoor Educators Association of Queensland just last week, and we thought it'd be a good opportunity to jointly deliver today's session. So welcome, Brendan, and thanks for joining us, mate.
Thanks for having us on board.
No worries. I'd like to welcome everyone, particularly members of Outdoors Queensland and reps from interstate organisations. As I said before, it says on the screen, recordings of these sessions are publicly available on our website and on YouTube. This is our second scheduled episode of Coffee and Conversation for this year. So we've done up a bit of an agenda there. First, you know, it's very much going to be about COVID, obviously, discussing the back to school plan and particularly its impact on outdoor education. But before we do that, we do have several opportunities relevant to the outdoors to flag. So I just wanted to go through those with you. And first one is a really positive story. So Queensland Police Service have advertised 2 school support officers positions in Rockhampton. I think, not sure if Mark Cartner is on the call. I haven't seen your name on the list, Mark. If you are with us, if you want to unmute yourself, if you'd like to talk about this opportunity. Not sure. Have you seen Mark on there?
No, I don't think he's made it yet.
Okay. No worries. Well, I mean, it's up there. Basically, it's been advertised. This is an advertisement that's on our website. Applications close next week, and they're looking for people with Cert 4 in outdoor leadership quals, and it's about rolling out the Walk of Life program, which was one of the award winners from the Outdoors Queensland Awards last year for development. And yeah, it's a really good opportunity. So I just wanted to flag it, that it's obviously a quite a positive story to start the day with. So yeah, and if Mark does join us later on, then we might be able to have a quick briefing from him about a bit more about the Walk of Life program. A few other ones, the funding opportunities. Some of these I mentioned last fortnight. The Gambling Community Benefit Fund. If you're a member of Outdoors Queensland and you'd like a letter of support for a program you're looking to seek funding for, please contact us. But contact us in advance, because I suspect we'll get a few people seeking letters of support on that one. The Sport and Rec Disaster Recovery Program, I believe that's still open for that level 1 funding of up to $5,000 to assist in cleanup efforts. The Fair Play Vouchers opened 2 weeks ago, and it's still open as I understand it. And there's a new one that's just opened, which is this Investing in Queensland Women program. And that's it's actually another Queensland government program, which is one-off grants for events and projects that address unique issues faced by women and girls, and it's funding of up to $15,000 for initiatives with a duration of up to 6 months. So that's open right now, and it closes at the end of the month. So I just wanted to flag that one as well. There's the information about that one on our website as well. So yeah, just wanted to flag that. So someone have a question on one of those? Oh, okay. We also put information about these on our website and in our newsletters, but I just wanted to flag it. The consultation opportunities as well, that independent EPA one, that actually closes this Sunday. So if you're interested in doing that survey, you're running out of time, but it is available still now. So, and that's about establishment of an independent EPA for Queensland, whether the community actually wants that, and the future of environmental regulation. So obviously relevant to our space as far as the environment in which outdoor activities take place. And then the Currumbin Eco Parkland is about creating one of the largest parks in Australia, and they are seeking community feedback. So if you want to provide information to that one, please do. And the Savannah Guides are offering the Australian Institute of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Studies course. It's an online course about cultural capability of organisations and workers. And Savannah Guides are an Outdoors Queensland member, and they've organised this course. So you can register through Savannah Guides to do that course. And I've done it, Mark's done it, and a few other of our staff have done it, Outdoors Queensland staff have done it. And it's a really valuable course. We found it really good. So it's worth a look if that's something that you think you could work on personally or within your organisation. That course is certainly a good way of looking at that cultural learning as far as is what's available there. So, and you don't need to be Savannah Guides member or Outdoors Queensland member to do the course, but just contact Sam there at Savannah Guides. All right, COVID. I know it's been a big fortnight since our last session. So I guess what I'd like to do here is go through some of the stuff that we have discussed previously, but then we'll very much talk about the back to school plan that was released by the government on Sunday and the impact of that with the suspension of school camps that was in that plan. A couple of things as we go along. Really, it's really, the same, how do I say it? The rules and, that we've looked at previously with the COVID safe future, the roadmap hasn't changed. So we're still at that same situation that we talked about last time. The key part that was there as far as outdoor operators was that new normal, which is along the bottom of that roadmap. Just to blow it up there, the same things we've been talking about for just about 2 years now: the physical distancing, mask wearing, good hand hygiene, staying home when sick, the Check In Queensland Act for contact tracing, vaccinations and boosters, and then the COVID-19 test if you have any symptoms. And that's still the situation that we've got as far as that goes. I just saw your comment in there, Andrew. I think I just wanted to present what the situation is and what it is. So if we can just, as we come along, we'll get to what's going on with the back to school plan as it's affected us so much. As we've said previously, Outdoors Queensland supports vaccination, and we know that that's one of the best ways to ensure health and safety of all outdoor activity operators, participants, and members of the public. So just wanted to put that out there as well. And there's a heap of information on the Fair Work Ombudsman's website. So that's there. I know I'm ripping through this pretty quickly because I think we're going to have a big session today. So if anyone has any questions about any of this, happy to if you flag them or just put your hand up or sing out. But I am going through this fairly quickly to get to the key topic that we really need to talk about today, I guess. As far as the sport and rec situation for outdoor activities in general, and particularly clubs, this hasn't changed. This bulletin was released on the 17th of December. It hasn't changed in relation to what clubs can and cannot do as far as vaccination, unvaccinated people. So I didn't really intend to go through that again. We've gone through it in the last couple of sessions of Coffee and Conversation, the last one of last year and the first one of this year. So I won't go through it in detail today, but if anyone has any questions about it before we move on, happy to take any questions on the diagram of the situation for clubs and other organisations on that. Oh, okay. Sorry, I just skipped past one there. That was also about that. The key thing there is about that TAFE Queensland COVID Safe Business course. I mentioned last time I've done that course. It is actually really good as far as it goes, and also some of that signage about whether vaccinations required for entry into the premises is available on the government website, as much as that's useful at the moment. Adventure tourism is an important part of the outdoor sector, and tourism experiences were specifically included in that public health direction. So only fully vaccinated visitors and staff permitted. And that's been one of the situations as well, which includes the point about national parks there. So there is a specific web page with guidance for tourism and aviation industry. We've got a Queensland Government website, and QTIC have run some seminars as well, the industry peak body for tourism. So they're worth a look if you can get access to those. I think they're on their website as well. So I think this is really the topic of the week. I've tried to zoom in on the back to school plan that was released by the Queensland Government on last Sunday, the 30th. So this was released for Education Queensland. And I've just blown up the fine print. I know it's difficult to read, but the fine print at the bottom of the document there, it is important. It says that the plan covers kindergarten school sites, early childhood development programs, and prep to year 12. It acknowledges that the COVID-19 situation is changing rapidly, and this document is subject to change. And it mentions the guidance material and frequently asked questions available on the Department of Education's COVID-19 website. And then it says independent and Catholic schools may have different arrangements and contact schools to confirm their plans. The key thing, I guess, in this plan is that other dot point at the top, which specifically says suspension of school camps, excursions, assemblies, and large gatherings. And that's, I guess, the possibly part of the reason that we've got so many people joining us today for this session. It's why we've invited Brendan as OEAQ president to join the session as well. So that suspension of school camps point there, it's very different to what we discussed in our previous session of Coffee and Conversation 2 weeks ago on the 21st of January. So we had a representative from Education Queensland who gave us information 2 weeks ago that her understanding at that time of the situation for term 1 would be that school camps could continue and would continue. So I really appreciate, and I want to say this up front, that that we had that representative from Education Queensland join our session last time. We haven't got anyone from Education Queensland here today. I suspect it's been one of those weeks for the department as well, but we'll look to have a representative from the department join us in future sessions. And I do want to flag that we do appreciate the fact that we've had that attendance from people from the department. What's turned out in the back to school plan was very different to what we expected, and I really want to flag that up front, that it was quite different. And my take on that is it was different to obviously the understanding that was, I guess, the understanding of the situation as at the 21st of January when we last met. So I guess the key part of today is really about talking about what this means, what the this suspension of school camps, particularly, but excursions as well, actually means for the outdoor sector. And I mean, this is a bit where I guess, happy, Brendan, if you have any comments, if you want to provide some introduction, but if anyone else wants to fire away, more than happy to have an open discussion about this. I have got some polls that I would like it if people could do, because it'll provide us with some, as well as the valuable anecdotal stories and the information about what it's doing. It'll give us some stats that we may be able to use to represent you and the industry as a whole. So I've got some polls that I'd really like to use, but to fill out. But yeah, I guess, Brendan, did you want to lead off, mate, and some comments from the OEAQ?
Yeah. Thanks, Tom, and hello, everyone. Probably wasn't what I was expecting my first week of being president of OEAQ. I thought it might be an easy transition, but it doesn't seem like that, but that's part of the fun. Look, I'm somewhat in the dark as well. We've communicated with the OEA, with Education Queensland, and we haven't had any response. In our sort of correspondence to them, we really raised the implications from a holistic perspective of the damage this does to students' sort of social well-being, health, their educational journey, and the importance of these sort of transitional sort of camps that occur this time of year. We also, similar to what Outdoors Queensland has raised, the issues that has ramifications for all of the providers, and the opportunity to either, they said, oh, well, camps will be rescheduled, but we know that just isn't possible in many instances. So I'm really here, I guess, to hear the voice of educators and to share with Dom and Mark from Outdoors Queensland, so that we can take a more concerted front to Education Queensland and really put to them what is it that we can do. Yep, Marcelo, I can share that, and I'll put it up. I'll work out a way. I'll have a quick chat to Mark and work out a way to share it. But it's essentially what was posted on the OEAQ's website, OEAQ's Facebook site, but I'll share it as well. So I'm really here to listen and to find out the implications on the ground for educators, so that we can put a position to the government. And one of the really key things is that we know that they'll work at a glacial speed in terms of responding to some of this stuff, but making sure that we're present when they ask the question next time. So we're part of the next answer when March rolls around and they're thinking about delaying or cancelling camps again, that we can be in a position to actually respond quickly and say, hang on, let's have a discussion before you make that move.
Thanks, Brendan. I just saw Tanya put a comment on there a bit from Camp Kirby. Yeah, I can only, I guess, Tanya, I don't know if you want to expand on that. I think everyone is certainly feeling the same pain, and the situation that everyone's been faced with this week is certainly, it is devastating. So did you want to expand on that, Tanya?
I guess, yeah, I think that's a short version of it, is looking at, if you were already speaking to Education Queensland, and I missed the meeting 2 weeks ago, and they were indicating we were going ahead and there was consultation, why wasn't there consideration of the industry in terms of the financial impact, personal impact for the kids? Why wasn't that taken into account, so that when they're rolling out a closure, they're also rolling out a support package?
Yeah. And Andrew Grant's just put a comment in there too about the contracts unable to be fulfilled, and 100 plus staff stood down at QCCC, and it is devastating. If that's an operator, and we know that that's happening across our industry right now. So, yep.
Just wanting a united front, I guess, Don, because we are getting approached by media at the moment. And so it is about what is the messaging we're trying to get out, so that we're providing a strong voice that's united.
Yeah. And Tanya was also interviewed for an ABC article that came out yesterday. They interviewed me as well on Monday afternoon for that one, and Darren from Emu Gully as well. And that's also been played on the ABC, a little bit more information from that interview, a bit more in depth, I guess, which was good. I know that a few other operators have been contacted as far as media, and I've had another request today for a media interview. So it's certainly happening in that. And you're right, part of this is about where do we go from here? So I guess it might actually be a good opportunity if we can just run these polls. There's 3 or 4 polls that I'd like to do, if that's all right with everyone. And we'll just do those. This will actually give us a bit of, it's a little bit, I don't know, I'd say unscientific. We'll get a measure of the room, I suppose, is probably what I'd like to say, and maybe some stats that we can then use with in our advocacy work and in our explaining the situation more to the decision makers. So I'll just grab the first one I have, and this is one. Actually, it's one that we've run before, and I'd really like. It's a personal question. It is anonymous, but it's a question about your anxiety level right now, and I think it's an important thing to consider. So, on a scale of 1, very calm, to 10, very anxious, how do you rate your personal level of anxiety right now? If you don't mind, if you don't want to answer it, that's cool. You don't have to. No one has to do this. It's voluntary, but I'd really appreciate it if you could share this with us so that we can, we also need to take into account how we support you personally as well. But it's also about being able to show some of the impacts of the, the situation that we're finding ourselves in.
Dom, as a psychologist, just when you're using those measures around anxiety, sorry, I don't mean to jump in that, but I think maybe sometimes it helps if you're specific to a certain time period, time frame, or thing that we're focusing on rather than just anxiety generally. So I would be suggesting saying over the last 24 hours, last 7 days, or specific in relation to your employment or your, like making it a more specific question.
Yeah, thanks, Tanya. Oh, yeah. I'm not a psychologist, but yeah, thank you. I do appreciate that feedback. And over the last 7 days, I think it would be dramatic. But thanks to those who've already filled it in. We might finish that one off there because, as I said, it's not mandatory. So thank you for that. I'll just close that one off. I'll share those results very quickly. I probably should have said that before I said it, but it doesn't show who said what, but just to share, I guess, with the group what it says there. I'm not sure if you can see that right now on the screen, basically a couple of people, or one person said 2, but then starting at 5 and working their way up to 10 was the majority of the group who responded. So just wanted to flag that. So thank you for sharing that. I do appreciate it. And it will, it does show us that there's obviously an issue right now, which is not unexpected, but just want to get some figures around it. So another one, and this one is about the impact of suspension of camps. So I don't know if I've set this one up properly. It has 2 questions. One's for workers and one's for business operators. So I just wanted to obviously bring that into both workers and business operators. So I'll launch that right now, and hopefully you can do that as well. If you want to do it, that's fine. If you don't, no problem at all. But I have a feeling you may have to do both questions because of the way I've set it up, which is not what I intended, but see how you go. Is that working? Cool. And I've only given 4 options there because I think the more for the workers, because the more options I put there, I think it was going to lose something, but there's several options in the business operator one. So we'll just give this a minute for people to fill it out because there are 2 questions there. So then we'll finish that off. But yeah, thank you. If you are happy to fill it in, I do appreciate it, and it will help us hopefully work out where we go from here, and that's really what we're all about. So.
Hey Dom, it's Marcelo here. So those questions, I would love to answer those as well. But on my case, I can answer as a client, as a school.
Yes, mate. I probably should have put it in as a separate one, maybe.
Yeah, because as a school, I don't know if all the other schools are here as well. It's a massive impact. So it doesn't actually relate to to our reality, which is very significant to include it in if you bring this further in the future.
I might even be able to do another one while we're talking in a minute. So
yeah, or maybe just include a third question here, because and then you have from different angles: workers, operators, and clients in school.
Yeah, thanks, Marcelo. Yeah, all right. I'll close that one off now. Thank you. And I do have another one that I'd like to do, which is, and this is again one we've done previously, but it's the confidence in your organisation. And I've said this before. I was a bit reluctant sometimes to ask this question, but I think it's important, and it's about how confident are you that your organisation will still be operating in 12 months? And it's a question that we asked 2 years ago when we were really in a lot of uncertainty in relation to what was happening in relation to COVID. But I just wanted to run this one again. And if you don't want to answer it, that's fine. If you're happy to answer it, please do. So it's on a scale of 1, very unsure, to 10, certain. How confident are you that your organisation will exist and be operating in 12 months' time? And again, completely optional and anonymous. So just give that another 20 seconds if anyone else wants to fill that out. Most people seem to have, the ones who have done it by now. So all right, thank you for that. I'll just close that off there now. And I didn't share the results of that previous one, and it was purely because I was talking to Marcellus while we were going. So sorry about that. Yeah, I will share the results of that poll, which is quite broad ranging through there. There are some people saying 10, 8 people said 10, so certain that the organisation will exist in 12 months. But then some people have said up at the very unsure end of the scale as well, some up there. So that's obviously a concern as far as we're concerned, so as far as everyone's concerned. So thank you for sharing that information, and there's some in the middle as well. So thank you for that, and I do appreciate it. Does anyone have any comments on those polls or on that exercise? If you tell me you don't ever want to do that exercise again, I'm happy to take that on board, but I would prefer we didn't need to do that exercise as well, personally. But does anyone have any comments or questions on that? No. So just looking at the chat, yeah, Linda, sorry, I think that was because of the way I set it up that you had to answer both questions to be able to submit it. Yeah. Brendan's shared the email sent to Education Queensland by OEAQ, and that'll be sent to everyone at the end of the session. Guy, we did invite Education Queensland representatives today, but they were unable to attend. So they got back to me this morning and said they were unable to attend today. Hopefully they'll be able to attend the next session that we have. But yeah. And Andrew's just said 1 in 4 operators not sure they'll see out the next 12 months, and that's looking at those results. Yeah, there is some uncertainty in it. Linda's just pointed out too, but there is a varied nature of everyone on the call. I guess the point really about that poll was really about the outdoor sector as a whole, rather than necessarily school camp operators. But yeah, the I guess the results is showing that some operators are truly concerned about what this looks like. And Tanya's just said that they look worse than last year from what you can recall. I haven't got those right now in front of me, but we will do a bit of a comparison as well. And that was part of the point of doing the same poll. So I wanted to do that as a comparison. And I can modify those polls, but yeah, thank you for that feedback on that. But yeah, thank you for those who contributed to those polls, and it'll give us at least some data that we can use, or we can use in relation to explaining the situation. I mean, this recording will be available as well, so more than happy if anyone wants to, speak about the situation right now. It will be of, a valuable resource as well. But yeah, I've sort of, the next slide I've got here is actually about, and maybe this is the whole thing, but as Mozilla said, what can we do moving forward? So my slide there is, there's multiple options that might be available to organisations in relation to this situation right now, the suspension of school camps. So communication with workers, contacting clients, contacting peak bodies like Outdoors Queensland, OEAQ, Christian Venues Association, Australian Camps Association. So that's important to keep us informed and understanding what the situation is. Possibly contacting local members of parliament so they understand this. Possibly contacting the ministers who are responsible for the decisions. And as Tanya flagged, some people have already been contacted by media and others have contacted media. So you need to think about what's right for you and when you might do it. It also about ensuring the right person speaking for the organisation and having the right messaging. But an important thing that we can do too, which is the one I've got there at the bottom, is about planning for resumption of school camps. And I know that's an easy thing for me to say there, but it is also part of what needs to happen in this process. So I think part of that is the talking with clients and your workers, but also understanding what this could look like in the next few weeks. And that's why I think it's important that we continue to engage with Education Queensland particularly, and continue to work in this space to actually move forward with what this looks like once school camps do resume. Does anyone have any comments, questions on those points? They're just some things that I've put there, and I really wanted to, I guess, open it up to everyone to comment on.
Dom, can I jump in? Hi everybody. It's a great meeting. They have so many faces in the room. Maybe we need to really push the agenda if we're not going to get the decision changed until the 4th of March. So we're just going to wipe away February. That potentially we need to be marketing through research, infographics, social media, and mass media friendly devices, the value of what we do as a sector, and why it's important that we actually return to work on the 4th of March. At the moment, there's no guarantee they won't extend it because there was no reasoning why they implemented it in the first place. So I have programs beginning on the 5th that I'm planning for. I've got no guarantee they'll be able to run because there's been no word. So I think whilst polls are good, we also need to represent the fact that what the sector does for the community, for students, and for the school communities, and the greater outdoor recreation sector is invaluable. And we need to find evidence and supporting articles and be posting those every day.
I'll jump in there. I think you're right, David. And what I communicated and had a chat for a number of people is we need to be part of the answer. I can't see the government backflipping before the 4th of March. They saw it as a small loss in their perspective, but obviously it's a massive loss for others. But I think that we need to have a concerted language that is, we are part of the answer. We were part of the answer when we brought back school camps early in the COVID. The wonderful work Outdoors Queensland did in developing the COVID safe plans. We need to use that as a benchmark to communicate to them that this is a safe place that students can go to. And we can be a part of the answer of resuming the normal and back to normal sort of scenario. So, and a consistent message across needs to come from that. So that includes everyone across the sector doing what you've mentioned, being a part of that response to governments, being a part of that response to their local members, and also sort of submitting things to the peak body so we can then submit them onwards.
Just jumping in here, I agree, Brendan, and I agree with you, David, 100%. Coming from a client perspective, maybe you guys are not aware, but of course I had to change the Year 7 camp twice because of the changes. And you smile now, hey David, I know that just sucks. But I have to change that twice. And the perspective that I would like you guys to have is from the bottom of the client perspective, which is from the student's parents. I've received a number of emails from students' parents explaining how frustrated they are with the government's decision. So I think we can't go further down into the clients. We're right in the heart of the clients, from the parents already complaining about it and frustrated with the decision from the government. So whatever information we can bring it out, David, like you said, in infographics, I'm happy to upload some of those quotes, anonymized, of course, but I think it'd be a powerful way to send the message as well, I guess.
I think that's a really valuable point. As far as I've had the same thing personally, I've had people say to me, just in relation to their kids, exactly the same thing, how disappointed they are that school camps have been cancelled or suspended. So, you know, that's an important point to make. And it's probably a point that we need some of that information coming through as well, and whether it's you know, whether it's appropriate to have parents campaigning for that as well, or join the campaign if they're genuinely, you know, David's just put up there some hashtags, you know, mate, that could be part of it, of creating, you know, some of this, but it's not, it's critical for all of us, but it's also a significant issue for the parents and for the children. And let's not forget the children's voice in this, that those students who are missing out on these experiences, you know, that's part of it. I just saw Andrew Grant's comment about parents panicking about camp because it's been suggested that we're not COVID safe environments. And that's something that I've actually really, I don't really understand any suggestion on that about it not being COVID safe. We actually had a meeting with the Department of Education with a rep from there this week, and raised in that discussion, it was raised about whether we could go back to having the industry plan, like just revive it and have that as a way of resuming school camps. And because really the removal of the industry plan was certainly not our doing. It was a decision made by the government. And our take on that is, well, I think most operators are still generally operating under the protocols that are in place in the COVID safe plan that we had before that was cancelled, I guess. So, you know, that's actually been a question that we've raised of, would that be a way of doing this? And I haven't got an answer on that yet, but certainly looking at that as an option, and I'm trying to then be able to reassure, when we had that industry plan, it was approved by the Chief Health Officer. We had a plan, and that said, this is the protocols, you know, and this is how we can, you know, be COVID safe. So I think part of that is trying to get to the point where we can make sure that it's understood that we can operate in a COVID safe manner. And that's that point I put at the bottom there about planning for resumption of school camps. Does anyone have any comment on that or other topics?
Is there anything else we can do instead of just putting out there to the media and voicing our frustration? Do we have a lawyer? Is there anything else we can do further?
Yeah, we're also, I guess it sort of comes to this one. I mean, one of the problems in all this is that it seems to me, and people can certainly speak about this, it feels a little bit like the schools and the camp operators and the kids and the parents and the teachers are sort of the meat and the sandwich here. That this decision that was released by the government to suspend school camps for the first 4 weeks, it's actually got longer term implications than that. And this is part of the issue, that we need to actually be getting on the front foot and explaining that, and also what are the actual actions that are going to make a difference. So I'm trying, you know, as Outdoors Queensland have contacted obviously the Education Department, but also Sport and Rec, and also the Minister, and trying to get on in front of that. I know that Graham James from Christian Venues Association wrote to the Premier this week as well, expressing concerns about the suspension of school camps. I'm not sure if Graham's on the call today. If you want to say anything about that, Graham, but I think I saw your name before. Am I speaking out of turn there, Graham?
No, you're not, Dom. I'm happy to share the letter I wrote to the Premier and copied in the Education Minister on Monday. I'm happy to put a link into the chat of that letter as well, if that would be of assistance, Dom.
Thanks, Graham. I take it you haven't had a response yet to say, yeah, well, it'll all be right.
Yeah, no, she didn't ring me that afternoon. No, so we wait, and we can wrestle chat cages, but there's nothing. I'm very happy for that to be as public as people wish it to be as well.
Thanks, Graham.
Okay, you happy for me to put in the chat, Dom?
Yeah, that'd be great, mate, if you're happy to
cheers.
put a link there.
Yeah,
thanks, Graham. Yeah. And just looking at the chat, Mark from Camp Kubi's made a point there about concern being around sharing of dorm for 8 hours a night and potential for transmission. So there was a statement in that ABC article from the Education Department where they referenced that as a potential for transmission. And yeah, there seems to be quite a few other areas of potential for transmission as well that seem to be acceptable risks. And I think that's one of these things that we need to better understand the rationale and try to discuss what it actually really means. Yeah. So,
Dom, can I just speak to that?
Yeah, Graham.
Again, we've had some good, being a national body, we've had some direct conversation with other education departments around that, and with the common theme of a close contact being someone who is in the in a accommodation like setting, and they confirmed very clearly that the only close contacts would be those that would be sharing the same room. So it's not the whole camp. It's not even those in the whole dorm strip. It's shared bathrooms, don't care. Shared anything else, don't care. It's the 2 in the tent, or those 6 or 8, whatever number it is, in the same room would be only those. And so it's not as though the whole year group is going to be classified as close contacts, and basically the whole country is of the same definition now as well. So it wouldn't be a far stretch of logic to suggest that each education department should be viewing it under the same banner. And New South Wales and Victoria are both of that one voice as well.
Yeah. Thanks, Graham. Yeah. I'm just looking through the chat here. So, and a few people have spoken about independent schools, and this is, I guess that's part of it, is that this is actually just a Department of Education, but it seems that independent and Catholic schools are following suit, which, as Andrew Grant said, what principal is going to proceed with a school camp when the Premier and Education Minister have said no school camps, and not qualified that it only applies to school camps, it seems. So, Tanya said no school has indicated they'll proceed other than for an incursion, which is really concerning. So David's question about relevant ministers and friendly media contact details be supplied to the group post the meeting. Yeah, more than happy to do that. We can do that. I mean, as I said, it's really about what we can do. I guess it's also about getting on the same page, I think, as Tanya and Marcellus said before. So just saw Aaron's comment about all independent schools bookings in February are postponed or cancelled. And Brendan's just made a comment there of a few independent schools cancelled term 1 programs. The other one that I've been told about is programs that were later in term 1, so not necessarily just within the before the 5th of March or 4th of March. And that's a real concern if programs later in term 1 are being cancelled as well. So yeah, that is a real worry. Just looking at the chat. So if anyone wants to jump in, please do. And I'm struggling to keep up with the chat, obviously, because a lot of people are putting comments in there. Ben's put a point there that schools are concerned that teachers will become close contacts from attending camp. And that's a fair point, but that could be managed literally by saying we are only going to have 1 adult per room and not have any teachers share rooms. Because the way of becoming close contact is that household-like sleeping accommodation. If that's possible at your camp, as far as I know, that avoids the close contact situation as it is right now. So that one, I think, can be managed relatively simply if you have the capacity to have no adults sharing rooms. Does anyone comment on that? Am I dreaming? Or is that a relatively simple?
Dom, I think the issue is we don't know why they cancelled it. It's not set up in a logistical reasoning about, is it scientifically proven that there's an issue? So why do we run camps for the last 2 years since the pandemic began successfully without major outbreaks? Nothing was in the media. It was fine. There's no scientific basis. It's obviously either a political thing or it's a management or a concern about teachers getting it or something happening, but there's no evidence driving the decision. We can't change it potentially, but if we don't know why they've made the decision, where's the guarantee it won't be extended, which will crush the industry and at least, make major disruption to first term programming?
Yep.
Dave, one of the big outliers is for the 2 years that we were running programs, we didn't have the Omicron and the level of transmission in Queensland. So talking to some of the health department people at the university, they said that's probably a guiding light. The volume of transmission comparative to the 2 years previous would be one of the sort of contributing factors.
Yeah, I'd agree.
But there's still no consistency, because if Omicron is such a concern, then why isn't it reflected in the public health and social measures direction, which still allows that occupant density does not apply in sleeping areas, and every other context like ours, like boarding schools, backpackers, cabins in caravan parks, workers camps, mining camps, etc., can continue to have people in their accommodation without occupant density. And we have always operated with, since June 2020, a way of ensuring physical distancing in the rooms.
No, I'm not going to say
bunk approach. Yeah, but
I'm not going to say there's meaning to it.
In the absence of
frustration part.
In the absence of them engaging with us, in the absence of us not being at the table when these decisions are being made, how can these things be, rationally discussed? And so for the health minister, for the education minister to come out last night and say this is a common sense and cautious approach, well, that's fine. If you want to take a cautious approach, that's fine, but we're the ones paying for it. And our staff are the ones being laid off. And it's the kids who are not getting their school camp, and they're not discussing it with us. And that's why there's so much anger in the community.
I'm wholeheartedly in agreement with you, and I think that's why, I guess we've got about 10 minutes to go. Is that right, Dom? So I guess the focus on, well, what is the next, and how do we transition this to make sure that we're at the table? And that's OEAQ's position that we want to be at the table the next time this conversation comes up. So Dom, I don't want to preempt that, but thoughts on what do we take away from this to say the next step to be part of the answer and to be at that table, like Andrew says, that if we're not, we miss again.
But with respect, it needs to be operators at the table because we've got skin in the game.
Yeah, and yeah, no doubt about it. And schools and all those sort of things. And the focus that has to be inclusive of the operators, but a message also that this has a massive impact on the curriculum and the pedagogy of the students. And that's a heartstring thing that will have an impact on the members as well, of the people that are making these decisions.
Yeah, the whole thing about Omicron is that it's the perception. That's the issue that we've got with our clientele, is that the teachers and the parents are concerned, and it doesn't matter about what the rules are. It's the fact that there's perception out there now that things are going wild. They're already talking about a second spike once schools go back, and that's why we've got groups that are already cancelling after the date of the 4th. So we've already got a school that's come out of week 7, and we've got a school who's cancelled out of week 1, term 2. So it's already happening beyond.
Yep. And I guess this is probably, as Brendan said, we've got a few minutes left, and I think that's a great point from Ben, is that significant concern out there. I guess what we can do, what are we doing? Obviously, we're still trying to work with government departments. We're going to do that. We'll keep doing that. But we're also trying to speak to decision makers, including politicians, about this. We need input from operators and workers, and potentially parents and children, about understanding the issues that this has. Like, that's important, to have these stories and being able to tell those stories. I actually, just to go back to who needs to be at that table, I think as far as where, I'm more than happy to have, Guy just said about media, more than happy to speak to media about this. But I think there's also value in organisations speaking to the media if you're confident to do that and if you're authorised to do it. Because as Andrew just said about having the operators' stories, and it's also, I think, on that, potentially the stories for some of the workers who can speak to that, about the impact of this suspension that's in this back to school plan. So there's a few things as far as that. More than happy if any journos are chasing you, if you're not comfortable with doing that, you can put them onto me or Mark, send them through to us. More than happy. So that's part of what we do, and we're happy to represent operators in that space, and we're also happy to represent in relation to dealing with the politicians. If you want to talk to your local member or the ministers directly, that's also your prerogative. No dramas at all. Like, that's up to you and your organisation in that space. But don't think we're not doing it. Like, we are trying to put the best foot forward, and part of that is about making sure that we're telling the story that is the trying to cut through and get the right decision made for the resumption. I mean, one thing that could happen, and it's all speculation at the moment of what's going to happen in 4 weeks' time, particularly, is what happens with cases once school resumes, which I think Ben just mentioned, as far as in the next few weeks, what is this actually going to look like, and what's it going to look like for all the other parts of the society, not just the camps that have been suspended, which, as Andrew said before, it seems that for some reason we're one of the outliers as far as camps and excursions have been singled out effectively for that suspension. But I guess the question is going to be, what does this look like in the next couple of weeks? So I just saw a question about Tanya with media contact. So there's been a few media, a bit of interest from the media, as I said earlier. But yeah, I know Tanya's done a little bit of work there too in relation to a couple of people. So which is great. And more than happy if you want to be involved in that process. Yeah, that's great. Any questions about what I've put there about Outdoors Queensland? I guess it applies equally or with OEAQ as well. I probably should have put that on there, Brendan, but you know, as far as being part of these conversations and representing the outdoor sector in general, I think, you know, this is what we really need to be focused on.
I'd like to see us present a risk-benefit statement so that we can use that to underpin our argument to the minister, and also try and find out who's actually the decision maker so that we can shift their thinking. I don't know how to do that, but I'm happy to attend a meeting if that's useful from a practitioner's point of view. I'm not sure if I'll get approval from PCYC, but yeah, if I can help in any way, I'm happy to.
Thanks, Aaron. Yeah, you were a little bit faint there at the start, but I know you said about a risk management approach to what this is and what is the decision based on. That's actually a question that we've been asking this week, is trying to get more information about that side of things.
Hey, Dom, is there any data on transmissions in outdoor education spaces since 2019, or is there any way we can get that into an infographic? Because I think that would be helpful moving forward, that, you know, since we've been doing this in 2019 and COVID safe plan, etc., and all the terminology, I don't know personally on our side of any transmission or concerns, even following August last year when we got that 4-week shutdown. So is there a way of trying to get that data to make it really clear that we are safe?
Do you know what would be awesome? And this might be, just put it out there, if people could send me or Mark an email saying how many camp nights you've had since resuming in June 2020. I don't know if you have that information available readily, but if you can get some estimate of school camp nights, that we can paint that picture. Bearing in mind that we're now dealing with Omicron and it's much more transmission across the community now, as Brenda mentioned before and we've talked about, but this is, I think that would be a valuable stat if we could get some picture of the number of camp nights that have been engaged in the last 18 months. That would be awesome. So I don't know if we can get someone from each organisation, at least give me some sort of picture of how many camp nights there might have been in the last 18 months. Is that too much to ask? Is that too difficult to get an estimate of that?
We can do our best.
Yeah, just seriously, a back of the envelope estimate would be awesome, because let's be honest, politicians and the media love statistics.
If you look at the people in the room, Dom, there's half a dozen GPS schools from Cairns all the way down to me, and half a dozen or more commercial providers who are running bigger and massive programs. There's a lot of numbers involved here that are all representative. So if everyone sends that in, it'd be a great metric.
It would be awesome. So maybe I'll add that to the list on the previous page of what you can do is give us that sort of info that lets us paint another. Some people respond really well to personal stories. Other people respond really well to statistics. So we need to cover off on both. So to those who can do that, that would be terrific. If you can email that to Mark and myself. About the financial impact, that's one, Aaron, I just saw your point there. Can be difficult. Some people are happy to share that, others not so much. But I think if we can talk in the camp nights, I think that'll paint a serious picture right up. But if anyone wants to share that as well with us, that would be terrific. Just conscious of time, we're getting on for 12 o'clock. A couple of people have asked, can we do a special one of these sessions next week? And I'd be happy to do that. We can organise that probably for Friday, but I'll need to try to line it up and see if we can get someone from education as well. Is that something, I guess it's really a question if everyone is happy to do that. We can organise it and see what happens from there. Didn't see anyone. Yep. Mark, have you got your hands up, mate? Did you want to say something?
Yeah, sorry. I was just talking to Tanya. She's given me permission to share her media contacts, so I'm just busy typing them into the chat group now, if that's any help to anyone. But I just wanted to make sure I got that in before you shut the meeting.
Okay, mate. Thank you.
So it's coming.
Okay, no worries. And I just saw Brendan's just put in there about being part of the answer rather than being sidelined, and that is important. And consistency in messaging, that we have that experience to manage outdoor ed programs in a COVID safe way. And I completely agree about talking about the values of our programs and what it means for the health and wellbeing of students and staff. You know, and yeah, Danny, I think whatever figures you can give me as far as bed nights or camp nights, I'm happy. So yeah, the numbers, whatever you can get to us, that'd be great if I can pull them together. It's really about putting a picture in there. I just saw Andrew said bed nights probably better. It is probably for this current situation. Could we add an annual average up to 2020? Yep, that's probably not a bad idea, Tom. Whatever you can give us, we'll make the best we can out of the stats. So it's going to be a little bit loose because people probably have different stats available. But I'm happy to work with whatever you can give us. So we might. I just saw. Thanks for popping that in there, Mark. So that's Sam from Channel 7 and Peter from the ABC in there. And Bryn's just put some a note there about messaging. Yeah, we do need to get this out there and get some media, get the media there. And thanks, Guy, for doing an interview with media. Yeah, so yeah, and I think in a centre or in a tent, that's awesome. And maybe if you want to separate it, if you've got that information, send it through to us as well. If you don't have it separate, just give us the overall number and that would be awesome. So whatever you can give us, terrific. And while we've been talking, Sam from Channel 7's contacted me as well. So Sam might be busy. And Andrew's got another one with ABC. So I think the big thing is about making sure we're getting that messaging out there about the value of camps and the impact of the back to school plan suspension.
Dom, can
Yes,
can I suggest that between you and Brendan, you put out a quick memo to everybody in the group saying, here are our key points, here are our clear messaging goals. So we're being consistent because this is why we had this meeting and this is why there's 45 people in it. So if you guys set that direction for us as a guidance note, then if we're putting it out through independent social media or through school media or whatever it might be, the messaging is going to be consistent.
Yep, we can do that. Yeah, happy, Brendan. We might work on that this afternoon and get something out with all the notes. The other one there about emailing local MPs, I'm also happy to do a very basic template. But what you need if you're going to email a local MP is you need to tell your story and you need to explain the impact on your local MP's electorate and the number of workers you have that work and live in that electorate, the number of schools that you service in that, you know, that's important. So there's no point just sending a copy of an email template. It needs to be fill in and personalise it for you and your organisation for that MP so they understand the impact on their electorate so that they can then speak to the ministers, etc. And Gavin's just said also other candidates for an electorate if known. It's a fair point when, well, not for the state government election is still a couple of years away, but there is a federal election coming up too, but I don't know if we need to go to that point right now. I think it's more a state government issue. But yeah, there is that side of this as well. So we've got a little bit over time, but obviously it's been an important topic today, important session. Really thank everyone for joining us. We'll certainly, if we can organise a session for next week, particularly if we can get Education Queensland. Maybe if we can't, we'll still have a session, and whoever can join us, please do. We'll probably try to aim for 11 o'clock Friday because it seems to be a time that works. But if we need to do it another day, we can do that too, and we'll get information out about that as soon as we can once we've got something lined up. So thank you all for your contributions, and thanks for all of the input. I haven't got everything in the chat today because it's been a little bit it's been as busy in the chat as it has been in the office this week. So yeah, thanks very much to everyone for your contributions. Thanks to Brendan and the OEAQ for co-hosting today, and obviously, as always, thanks to Mark for his contributions as we've gone along. But really about all your inputs as we've gone through this, because this is about, as we call it, it's about a conversation. So thanks very much. I normally sign off with the look after yourselves, look after other people, and look after the planet. And I think it's probably an important time to really consider looking after yourselves, particularly at the moment, and how you can look after others and the planet as we go about this time of significant uncertainty and challenging times. So thank you very much for joining us today. I do appreciate it, but please look after yourselves. Don't just, I just saw a guy put educators are resilient. Well, yeah, but everyone has breaking points. So please just take a moment if you need it to consider what you need personally as well. And I'll finish my lecture here. So thanks very much, everyone. And yeah, really appreciate the time you've taken to join us today.